Welcome to Weird Crafts. I'm Terry, and today I'm going to demonstrate for you one of our felt cookies from our summer collection. Today we're going to do the sun, and before we do that though, I do want to tell you everything that you will get in your kit. You will get your felting foam block, 4 cookie cutters, all of the roving that you need to complete these. You will get an assortment of felting needles in this really cool case that keeps them nice and safe, keeps you safe, and a magnet if you want to use those on the back of your finished products. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take the main color, the buttercup, and we are going to take this tightly packed roving and we are going to loosen it up and fluff it up really nicely and just start putting it down into the cookie cutter. Now, because this has a lot of little sharp angles on each one of these rays of the sun, you're going to have to work to get that wool down in there. And we can start working that with our needle. We're going to begin with the 36 triangular, which is the red tip. And we're going to start to very gently just tap this wool down with the needle. Now, some things to remember, especially for beginners, is that this needle is very sharp, so be super careful with it. Felting needles have barbs on them, and what they do is they agitate the fibers up against one another so that the fibers lock together, and that's how you create a solid piece. You would just want to stick the tip in. You don't want to go down really far because you will attach your piece to your foam block. So we're just gonna work this just a tiny little bit, and then we're gonna flip it over. I'm gonna give it a little scrub. It's gonna be really kind of wobbly there. Turn it over. Gonna get them in place again into each one of the rays. And then we're just going to add more wool. This time, we're going to give it a little bit of direction. We're going to go across that way. Start poking it in. You can use your needle and kind of flip it over and really pay attention to getting into these corners. Super important to do that so you get a nice edge on your shape. Another thing you want to remember is to go along every single one of these edges like I'm doing, so you get a nice clean line as you work through it. So I'm just going to give it a pass around all of these edges. Continue to work across the open surface of that. Give everything a little press across. I don't know if the mic can pick this up, but it has a very satisfying crunch that you hear when you are needle felting. So, starting to get a little bit of a shape here. I'm going to continue to add more wool, just like I did in the last step. Press it down, work it with the needle, and flip it several times. Okay, so I have added more wool, and I have worked across the surface about 4 times, and I flipped it. I'm going to show you something, especially with more intricate cutters like this that have all of these rays of the sun with these sharp angles on the bottom, that sometimes you might notice that they're not filled up all of the way, that there's a little gap missing. When that happens, all you have to do is take some more of your wool and just kind of take a little twirl of it like that. Like this one is kind of thinner than the rest of them, and just work it right in there, getting real tight into that tip, and then just work it across and continue to do that. Now, this takes some time and patience, but it sure is worth it once you get the finished product. So I'm just going to continue adding more wool, working it across and all of the edges, and then don't forget to flip it It's tempting to just continue to poke the wool, but if you do, you'll have a hard time flipping it and keeping it even. Okay, so I have worked across this and flipped it approximately 10 times. So as you can see, it's starting to get a really nice tight shape. But I'm gonna show you a few things that you can do to really get the shape defined. And that is carefully work the sides of these, especially in the indentations down in there. Really start to make things shape up. You can always just put it back in your cookie cutter if you want to maintain that shape, but feel free to just continue to work it like this if you like. Another thing you can do to really clean this up, once you get it super tight felted, even tighter than this is right now, is you can go after some of these wilder little fibers. Just really clean them up like that to define your shape. So the next thing we're going to do is put the circle for the little face on the sun. And what I like to do, we're going to loosen this wool up just like we did the darker yellow. I kind of like to just spin it in a little bit of a circle shape right in the center like that. And I take my needle and I really just kind of draw that circle with the needle, and I just keep going around, tucking in fibers as I go. Start getting that little face going for the sun. You can go to the side, in and out just a little bit. That will help you clean up your circle, tighten it up, and get a really nice shape. Just be careful that you're going straight in and out and not going down and then bending it, because you can snap the tips off of the needle. And we're just going to keep doing that until this is nice and flat. So as you can see, I've got this worked into a nice circle. I did add a little bit more of the light yellow to give it a bigger diameter as I was working, and I cleaned up the edges a little bit more. So the next thing I'm going to do is take the green tip, which is a 40 triangle needle. So the higher the number, the finer the needle. So it's going to leave a smaller hole, and we like to do that for fine work, for laying down lines of wool, so you don't have those larger holes. Just going to get that nice and even. So the next thing I'm going to do is do the eyes, and just start smaller because you can always add more. I'm just going to take a little bit of wool, I'm going to roll it up in my fingers, kind of make a little ball shape. You can do that however you like. For the eyes, just remember, if you were to cut the face in half, you want the eyes in this top, or even in thirds. Then it would be in the top third. Don't want to get them too low. It starts to interfere with the rest of the face that you want to put on with the cheeks. I learned that entirely by doing it the wrong way. So as you can see, this eye is going to continue to get smaller the more that I work it in. I'm going to give it its shape. Sorry if my hand's in the way while I work around the other side of that. That kind of gives you a good idea. I think it's a little bit bigger than the sample, but that's okay. You can do it however you want. So I'm going to put the other one in very quickly. And then we're going to move along and do the exact same thing with the light pink for the cheeks and just a little bit of a bigger ball. So I'm adding the second eye. Don't be like me. Keep your fingers completely out of the way so that you don't accidentally poke yourself. And I'm just going to keep working this. I need to turn it to face me just for a second so that I can make sure I don't have the eyes too close together. I'm going to get all of these little black fibers worked in. Keep working them around. Get the eye just in the right place. I think it needs to go more towards the outside edge so that they look nice and even. And I'm just going to keep working around it in a circle until we get nice, tight little circle shapes. Okay, flatten that one on the side. I'm going to get that curve back in it again. Okay, I'm pretty happy with those right there. But I am going to put the smile line in first before I put the cheeks on. And you're just going to take a thin piece of wool. You are going to pin it down with one needle, just a little bit. I'm going to try to do this so that you can see. And I'm literally going to start poking it in the half circle shape. You have to be delicate with your work. I'm going to take that out. Very gently. You can see better than I, so we're hoping that this is even. I'm going to turn it around so I can make sure that it is. And I'm just going to trim off that little end. And I'm going to work it back in. There you are, nice cheerful smile. So the last thing we have to do is put the little pink cheeks on. Again, I'm just gonna roll some of this in a little ball. I can just do that in my hands. Right there. Start working that in a circle on the outside. Pulling the fibers in as I go to get the shape that I want. There we go. And we're going to get the other cheek in, and we're almost done with our sun. Maybe that's a little bit too much. Oh, and that's too little. That's how it goes. It's trial and error. And that's really what I love about needle felting, is you really cannot mess things up too much. You could, if you didn't like the way that these eyes were, you could just pull them right off, snip at them with the scissors until the surface is clean, and start over. And this is just, there we go. Got it folded over pretty well. Once you just get it poked in a few times, then you can really start to work it into its shape. And I'm just going to keep working in a circle, almost like I'm drawing a line around it. Now I'm going to face it towards me just for a minute. So if you excuse that camera angle, and I am just going to keep working around these edges so things are in a balanced proportion. There we go. Now, if you just keep working at this, getting them flatter and flatter, you will end up with this. So thanks for stopping by Weir Crafts today. We hope you enjoyed this little project.